Zargol stood alone on a dark battlefield, breathing heavily. The smell of burnt metal and dust filled the air. His armor was broken, scratched, and barely held together. Around him, nothing but silence stretched for miles. His alien eyes scanned the ground, covered with fallen fighters, broken machines, and twisted metal. Zargol was a Vorthan warrior, a creature feared across many worlds. His kind were known for their strength, sharp minds, and hunger, an endless, strange hunger that drove them to fight and conquer. But Zargol's hunger was different. It was powerful, deep, and almost unbearable. It was a hunger for something special, something rare. As he looked across the battlefield, Zargol's stomach tightened. He felt the hunger inside him growing stronger, demanding to be fed. He had been in battle for days, and each fight made his hunger worse. He knew what he needed. He needed to consume the energy of humans. To the Vorthan, humans were strange creatures. They were small and looked weak, with soft skin and no natural armor. But somehow, they had a kind of energy, something that made the Vorthan crave them. Zargol had heard stories from other warriors about the strength humans could give. They said that just being near a human, feeling their energy, could make a Vorthan stronger, faster, and nearly unstoppable. But Zargol had never experienced it himself, until now. Far ahead, he spotted a broken human camp. It looked like humans had tried to set up defenses there but had been overwhelmed. Zargol moved slowly toward the camp, his steps heavy but determined. His eyes narrowed, his senses alert for any sign of life. Even though he couldn't see any humans, he could feel something, a faint energy in the air, left behind by the humans who had been there. As he got closer, his hunger flared up, almost painful now. The energy felt like a spark in his mind, calling to him, teasing him with the promise of strength. For a moment, Zargol stopped and closed his eyes, trying to focus on the feeling. His breathing slowed as he let the energy flow through him, even if it was only a trace of what he really needed. But it was enough to make him even more desperate. He continued through the camp, searching for anything that could satisfy his hunger. Then suddenly, he heard a faint sound. Zargol's eyes snapped open, and he turned sharply, his senses focusing on the direction of the noise. There, hidden behind some broken metal and equipment, was a human soldier. The soldier was injured and alone, clearly left behind by his team. He looked up at Zargol with fear in his eyes, but he didn't try to run. Zargol approached slowly, his hunger growing stronger with each step. He didn't know if the human could understand him, but he spoke anyway. "Human," he said, his voice low and rough. "I am Zargol of the Vorthan. You will give me what I need." The human stared at him, confused and terrified. Zargol didn't wait for an answer. His hunger was too strong now, and he felt his control slipping. He reached out, grabbing the human's arm. Instantly, a strange energy surged through Zargol's body. It was unlike anything he had ever felt, powerful, alive, and burning. Zargol's eyes widened as the energy filled him, every muscle in his body growing stronger. His mind felt sharper, his vision clearer. This was the power he had heard about, the strength that only humans could give. For a moment, he felt unstoppable, as if he could conquer any world, defeat any enemy. But just as quickly as it began, it ended. The human slumped, weak and drained, and the energy faded. Zargol released him, breathing heavily. The hunger, he realized, was still there. If anything, it was worse. The small taste of human energy had only made him want more. He looked down at the human, who was now too weak to move, and a thought came to him. This hunger would never end. Even if he consumed the energy of every human on this world, it wouldn't be enough. He would always want more. He would always need more. As he stood there, lost in thought, he sensed more humans nearby. They were coming closer, probably looking for their missing teammate. Zargol's hunger flared again, and he knew he couldn't stop now. He would find them. He would take their energy, and he would feed his endless hunger. Without another word, he turned and began moving toward the humans. His eyes were filled with a fierce determination, his body ready for the hunt. As he walked, he whispered to himself, a promise to his own hunger. Feed me, human. The craving begins. Zargol moved quickly across the deserted field, his body pulsing with new strength. The energy he had taken from the human soldier made him feel powerful, alive. But it wasn't enough. Instead of being satisfied, his hunger had grown stronger, sharper, like a fire burning inside him. He needed more human energy, and he needed it soon. As he walked, Zargol thought about this strange craving. He was a warrior of the Vorthen, a proud race that rarely showed weakness. Yet here he was, almost desperate for something only humans could provide. The idea bothered him, but his body didn't care. Every part of him ached to feel that energy again, to taste the strength that only humans seemed to have. In the distance, he spotted a group of humans moving carefully through the ruins of the battlefield. They were dressed in armor and carried strange weapons, their eyes scanning the area for any threats. Zargol knew they were looking for the soldier he had just drained. They had no idea that their friend had already fed his hunger, and that they were about to become his next target. Zargol moved closer, staying hidden among the wreckage. His sharp senses picked up their voices, low and tense. The humans seemed nervous, their bodies tense as they searched. Zargol could smell their fear, and it made his hunger flare even hotter. He wanted to leap out and take their energy right then, but he knew he needed to be smart. If he scared them too much, they might fight back or try to escape. He waited, his muscles coiled like a spring, watching as the humans came closer. They stopped near a broken piece of machinery, speaking in hushed voices. Zargol didn't understand their words, but he could feel their emotions: fear, worry, confusion. These emotions only made him more eager, more desperate to feel that powerful energy fill him again. When the humans were close enough, Zargol finally made his move. He stepped out from behind a piece of wreckage, his tall figure looming over them. The humans froze, their eyes wide with shock and fear. Zargol felt a thrill of satisfaction. He liked the way they looked at him, like he was some kind of monster. It reminded him of his power, his strength. Without a word, he reached out and grabbed the nearest human, a young soldier with wide, frightened eyes. The soldier struggled, but Zargol's grip was too strong. He pulled the human closer, feeling the energy start to flow from the man's body into his own. The feeling was incredible, like a surge of pure power rushing through his veins. Every muscle in his body felt stronger, every sense sharper. But as the energy filled him, Zargol realized something strange. The more he took from this human, the more his hunger seemed to grow. It was like drinking water from a well that never satisfied his thirst. No matter how much he took, he always wanted more. The human in his grip grew weaker, his face pale and his eyes dull. Zargol let him go, watching as the soldier slumped to the ground, barely conscious. The other humans stared in horror, backing away slowly. Zargol took a step toward them, his eyes glowing with hunger. He could feel the energy in them, calling to him, making his whole body ache with need. One of the humans raised his weapon and fired. The shot hit Zargol's armor, barely leaving a scratch, but the sound echoed across the battlefield. Zargol let out a low growl, annoyed by their resistance. He didn't want to harm them too quickly. He wanted to savor their energy, to feed slowly and fully. But if they kept fighting, he would have no choice. He moved forward, his eyes locked on the humans, his hunger driving him like a force he couldn't control. They fired again, but their weapons were useless against his thick armor. With a quick motion, he reached out and grabbed another human, pulling her close. The energy flowed into him again, filling him with strength and power. He could feel his body growing stronger, his senses sharper, but still, it wasn't enough. His hunger only grew. As he drained the second human, Zargol realized that this craving was more than just physical. It was like a need buried deep in his soul, something he couldn't understand or control. He wanted more than just strength. He wanted to consume everything these humans had to offer. Their energy, their fear, their very essence. It was as if their lives held something his own kind lacked, something he couldn't find anywhere else. When he let go of the second human, the others were already running. Zargol watched them go, part of him tempted to chase them down. Finding humans, Zargol's hunger was a fire that would not go out. The taste of human energy left him craving more, and every breath seemed to make his need stronger. He moved across the empty wasteland, his senses sharp, searching for any sign of more humans. In the distance, he saw a faint glow on the horizon, a sign of human life. His eyes narrowed with determination. That was where he needed to go. The path was quiet, but Zargol moved with purpose. Every step brought him closer to the humans he needed to feed his endless hunger. He remembered the taste of their energy, warm, powerful, filling every corner of his mind. It wasn't just about strength anymore. It was something deeper, like a need he didn't fully understand. He wanted their essence, the spark of life that humans had, and nothing else would satisfy him. After hours of walking, he reached the edge of a small human settlement. It was a camp with tents, supplies, and lights that flickered in the dark. He could see humans moving around, busy with their tasks, unaware of the danger approaching. Zargol hid behind a pile of rocks, watching them closely. His eyes glowed with hunger, his mind focused on his next move. Zargol observed the humans with curiosity. They seemed weak, fragile, and yet they had something he couldn't resist. Their energy was like a light, calling him, promising him the power he craved. He took a deep breath, feeling his body tense with anticipation. This time, he wouldn't just take a little. He would consume as much as he could, to satisfy the hunger inside him. He waited until one of the humans separated from the others, walking toward the edge of the camp with a flashlight. The human looked young, perhaps a scout checking the area. Zargol saw his chance and moved quietly, stepping from shadow to shadow until he was right behind the human. In a swift motion, he reached out, covering the human's mouth to stop any sound. The young scout struggled, but Zargol held him tight, feeling the energy start to flow. As the energy filled him, Zargol felt his senses sharpen, his muscles grow stronger. But as before, it wasn't enough. The more he took, the more he wanted. It was like a thirst that grew with every drop. He drained the scout quickly, leaving him weak and barely conscious, then moved back into the shadows. Now that he was closer to the camp, Zargol could hear the humans talking. Their voices were soft, filled with worry. They had noticed something was wrong, that one of their own was missing. Zargol smiled to himself. Their fear made their energy even more appealing. He waited, watching as two humans moved away from the camp, searching for their missing friend. He followed them silently, staying hidden until they were far enough from the others. Then he struck, grabbing one of them quickly. The human tried to scream, but Zargol's grip was too strong. He began draining the human's energy, feeling it rush into his body like fire. Every part of him felt alive, powerful, but the hunger only grew. The second human tried to run, but Zargol reached out, catching him easily. He fed on the second human's energy, feeling the same thrill, the same strange satisfaction. But as soon as he finished, the craving returned, sharper than ever. It was as if no amount of human energy could ever be enough. Zargol looked back toward the camp, knowing there were more humans waiting for him. His hunger pushed him forward, driving him to take more, to consume everything they had. He stepped back into the shadows, moving closer to the heart of the camp. The humans there had no idea he was coming, no idea that he was about to strike again. As he approached, he heard a human voice over a radio. They were calling for help, reporting that their scouts had gone missing. Zargol grinned, pleased that they were finally starting to realize the danger. He enjoyed the fear in their voices, the way their energy seemed to grow brighter with every moment of panic. Zargol moved carefully, slipping between tents and avoiding the light. He found a group of humans huddled together, talking in worried voices. They were unarmed, focused on their radio, unaware of the threat right next to them. Zargol moved closer, his hand reaching out, ready to feed once more. In one quick move, he grabbed a human and drained his energy before anyone could react. The other humans backed away in horror, their faces pale with fear. Zargol felt the energy rush into him, stronger this time, filling him with power. But even as he took it, he knew it wouldn't be enough. His hunger was endless, a craving that could never be satisfied. As the humans scrambled to escape, Zargol watched them with cold, hungry eyes. He knew he would find them, one by one, until he had taken everything they had to offer. For now, he would let them run. Let them feel the fear build inside them. It made the energy sweeter, more satisfying. And as he stepped forward, he whispered to himself, "More. I need more." The hunt was far from over. First encounter with a human. Zargol had been stalking humans for days, moving from camp to camp, taking their energy and leaving them weak, confused, and terrified. Each time he drained a human's energy, his body surged with power, his senses sharpened, and his strength increased. Yet each time, he felt his hunger grow stronger. It was as if the very act of feeding only made the craving worse. One evening, as he hid in the shadows of a dense forest, Zargol saw something unusual. A single human was walking through the trees, alone, carrying a small device that beeped softly. The human wore a helmet with a light attached to it, casting a dim glow on his face. His eyes scanned the area, unaware that he was being watched. This human looked different from the soldiers Zargol had encountered before. He didn't wear heavy armor or carry a weapon. Instead, he had light equipment and seemed to be studying something on a screen. Zargol watched him, curious. This human didn't seem like a fighter. He was calm, focused on his device, as if he was exploring or looking for something. Zargol decided to approach slowly, moving silently through the trees. The human continued to walk, glancing down at his device every few steps. Zargol's eyes narrowed as he studied his target. This human seemed less aware, less cautious. This would be easy. In a swift, silent motion, Zargol stepped out from behind a tree and blocked the human's path. The man looked up, surprised, and his eyes widened with fear as he took in the sight of the tall, armored alien standing before him. The device slipped from his hands, falling to the ground with a soft thud. For a moment, neither moved. Zargol could feel the human's energy, strong and bright, pulsing like a heartbeat. The scent of fear was thick in the air, and it made Zargol's hunger flare up instantly. He felt his body tense with need, his hands itching to reach out and take what he craved. But something held him back. This was his first real encounter with a human outside of battle. This one wasn't fighting or running. He was just standing there, frozen in place, watching Zargol with wide, terrified eyes. Who are you?" The human stammered, his voice shaky. His hands trembled as he took a small step back, his gaze fixed on Zargol. Zargol tilted his head, curious. Humans could speak, communicate. He hadn't thought much about this before. In battle, words didn't matter. But now, faced with this lone human, he felt a strange urge to respond. "I am Zargol," he said, his deep voice echoing in the stillness of the forest. "I am Vorthan. I seek your energy. You will give it to me." The human's face turned pale, but he didn't move. His breathing was quick, and Zargol could feel the fear radiating from him. He knew he could simply take what he needed, drain the human's energy, and move on. But something about the human's reaction intrigued him. This one wasn't trying to fight or run, as the others had. "Why? Why do you want my energy?" the human asked, his voice barely more than a whisper. Zargol paused, the question catching him off guard. No one had ever asked him that before. His kind had always fed on humans, taking their energy to fuel their strength. It was simply what they did. what they needed. But now, faced with this question, he found himself without an answer. "I'd need it," Zargol replied, the words feeling strange in his mouth. "Without it, I grow weak. Your energy makes me strong." The human swallowed, looking at Zargol with a mix of fear and understanding. "So, you're just like us. You need something to survive." Zargol frowned, his gaze narrowing. He didn't like being compared to a human. But there was something true in the human's words. His hunger was more than a want. It was a need, something he couldn't ignore. Taking a slow step forward, Zargol reached out and placed his hand on the human's shoulder. The human tensed, but didn't pull away. Zargol felt the energy start to flow, warm and bright, filling him with strength. He closed his eyes, savoring the feeling. The human's essence was like fire, lighting up every corner of his mind and body. As he drained the energy, he heard the human gasp, his strength fading. Zargol opened his eyes, looking down at the human's face. The man's eyes were filled with pain, but also with something else. An understanding, a strange acceptance. "Thank you," Zargol said, the words coming out before he realized it. The human gave a weak nod, his eyes closing as he slipped into unconsciousness. For the first time, Zargol felt something beyond hunger. This human, though weak, had shown him a glimpse of understanding, a connection he hadn't expected. But as the energy faded, the hunger returned, stronger than before. With a last look at the unconscious human, Zargol turned and disappeared into the shadows, his mind filled with questions he had never thought to ask. This encounter had changed something within him, but he didn't know what. All he knew was that his craving for human energy was growing, and he would soon need to feed again. A deeper understanding. Zargol couldn't stop thinking about the human he had left behind in the forest. The encounter had been strange, unlike any he'd had before. Usually, humans screamed, fought, or ran. They saw him as a monster, something to fear. But that one human, he hadn't run. He'd stood there, speaking calmly, looking at Zargol with eyes that held not only fear but understanding. It was something Zargol couldn't forget. As he walked through the forest, the memory of the human's words echoed in his mind. "So, you're just like us. You need something to survive." Zargol's purpose had always been clear: to feed on human energy, to strengthen himself and his people. But now, for the first time, he was questioning his purpose. Was he really like humans, driven by the same need to survive? He felt his hunger grow, sharper and more urgent, pushing his questions aside. In the distance, Zargol noticed a glow, a small human camp. He could sense their energy from afar, bright and pulsing, filling him with anticipation. But this time, something was different. His usual eagerness to strike, to feed without hesitation, was mixed with a strange reluctance. He couldn't shake the memory of that human's face, the quiet acceptance he had shown. Still, his hunger would not wait. Zargol approached the camp quietly, moving through the shadows. He saw 3 humans sitting around a fire, their voices soft as they spoke. They were sharing food and stories, laughing together. Zargol paused, watching them from the darkness. The scene felt peaceful, and he realized he'd never seen humans in this way before. As people, not just sources of energy. One of the humans looked up suddenly, sensing something in the shadows. She stood, her eyes scanning the darkness, and then froze as her gaze locked onto Zargol's form. Her face paled, and she whispered to the others, who quickly stood, their expressions turning fearful as they spotted him. Zargol took a step forward, feeling the pull of their energy, his hunger urging him to take it. But something held him back. He raised a hand, signaling them to stay calm, though he knew they probably wouldn't understand. "I am Zargol," he said, his deep voice cutting through the silence. "I do not come to harm you, but I need your energy." The humans exchanged nervous glances, unsure of what to do. One of them, a tall man with a steady gaze, took a cautious step forward. "You need our energy." "Why?" Are you like some kind of alien vampire? Zargol tilted his head, confused by the term, but he decided not to question it. I am Vorthin, he replied. My people require human energy for strength. Without it, we weaken and perish. The tall man looked at his friends, then back at Zargol, his fear mingling with curiosity. So, you're saying you don't want to kill us? You just want our energy. Zargol nodded slowly. If you do not resist, I can take what I need without ending your lives. You will weaken but survive. Our leaders believe they are planning an attack. We cannot allow them to grow bold. He looked at Zargol, his eyes narrowing. We trust you have not become sympathetic to these creatures. Zargol's heart pounded. He knew the cost of showing compassion. The Vorthin viewed it as weakness, an unforgivable flaw. If they suspected anything, they would not hesitate to destroy him alongside the humans. He nodded stiffly. Of course, humans are food, nothing more. The soldier seemed satisfied, but Zargol felt a chill settle over him. The Vorthin troops began spreading out, setting up equipment, and preparing their weapons. Zargol knew they would search every corner, every camp, leaving no human alive. The people he had spared, the ones who had trusted him, they were in grave danger. He turned, moving back toward the forest, his mind racing. He had to warn them somehow. But if he was caught helping the humans, he would be marked as a traitor, hunted down by his own kind. Yet, as he thought of the humans who had trusted him, he knew he couldn't abandon them. Under the cover of darkness, Zargol moved swiftly, his senses alert. He reached the camp where he had last seen the humans. They were still there, gathering supplies, preparing to move to a safer area. The woman he had drained earlier noticed him and took a step back, fear flickering in her eyes. But she didn't run. What's wrong? She asked, her voice low. You have to leave, Zargol said urgently. My people are here. They know about this camp. They will kill everyone they find. The humans looked at each other, fear and confusion clouding their faces. But why are you helping us? The tall man asked. Aren't they your people? Zargol hesitated, feeling the weight of their question. They were his people, and yet something had changed. He could no longer see humans as just prey. I have seen another way, he replied softly. But there is no time to explain. You must go now. Without another word, the humans began to pack, moving quickly to escape the approaching Vorthin troops. Zargol led them through the forest, guiding them to a path he knew was hidden, a way to escape unseen. But as they moved, he felt a familiar presence behind him. Another Vorthin soldier had followed, watching him closely. The soldier's voice was cold and accusing. What are you doing, Zargol? Helping the humans. Betraying your own kind. Zargol turned to face the soldier, his mind racing. He couldn't lie his way out of this, and he knew it. His only choice was to fight, to defend the humans he had come to care for. He took a step forward, his body tense, prepared for battle. The humans watched, fear and gratitude mingling in their eyes. The Vorthin soldier laughed, his eyes glinting with cruelty. You are weak, Zargol. Soft, you have lost the Vorthin way. He lunged at Zargol, his weapon drawn, but Zargol moved quickly, blocking the attack, his mind filled with determination. The fight was fierce, and Zargol struggled against the soldier's strength. But he fought with a purpose he had never felt before, protecting others, not just feeding his own hunger. With a final blow, Zargol overpowered the soldier, leaving him unconscious on the forest floor. He turned to the humans. Go now. Find safety. I'll hold them off as long as I can. The humans nodded, their eyes filled with gratitude, and disappeared into the trees. Zargol watched them go, knowing that he had just made a choice that would change everything. He had turned against his own kind to protect those he once saw as prey. As he stood alone in the darkness, he heard the sound of more Vorthin soldiers approaching. They would not stop until they found him, and he knew he would have to face them all. But Zargol felt no regret. He was ready to fight, to stand between the humans and the Vorthen. The choice was his, and for the first time, he felt truly free. The night was silent as he waited, his eyes fixed on the approaching lights, knowing that the battle had only just begun.